Success comes to those who works hard for it, who do not quit after failures, and who are always optimistic. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the success story series that is currently going on for the NABARD Grade A 2023 recruitment cycle. And today we have one such topper with us, Mr. Darshan, who has cleared this examination in his fourth attempt. So it's going to be a very interesting journey. We are going to understand that what were the changes he did in his preparation this time that helped him to clear the examination. But before that, let us just welcome Mr. Darshan. Sir, welcome and heartiest congratulations on your big win.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you for the wishes and thank you for the guidance too.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So we'll look at about the, the sources that you refer to. But before that, like what is the education qualification you have? And then how and when did you decided that you want to prepare for this examination and you started preparing for it?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I have completed my graduation in BSc Horticulture from University of Agriculture Sciences, Shimoga. I started my NABARD preparation since 2019. I mean, when it was only objective kind of pattern. After that, I joined Union Bank of India as a SO in 2020. And after that, I started preparing seriously for NABARD.
Right. So, like you already then bagged a job in bank, right? So why did you wanted to prepare for NABARD? Like you had everything, now you had a stable job, and everything, right? So why NABARD?
Because NABARD is always a better career option, even for the bankers also, because with respect to growth, it's a developmental bank. So there is a huge potential or growth when we compare a commercial bank and a regulatory bank or a developmental bank. So I just wanted to be in a better position.
Right. To have that growth in life, right? Definitely. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So you started preparing since 2019, and during that time, it was just objective that used to come in NABARD. And then in 2020, when you
Yeah.
started seriously preparing for this, then there's the subjective that was added. So how easy or
Yeah.
difficult it was for you to face this change?
It was actually very difficult because in my after my 2019 attempt, until the notification was out, I was preparing with respect to objective aspects only.
All right.
So a sudden shift was, quite difficult to get adopted.
True, true. That's true. All right. And you had given mains twice before also, and this was the third time that you have given mains. So
Yeah,
what
yeah,
what difference did you feel like you made in your approach? Because this time you get through phase two, and in fact the whole process. So what
yeah.
changed that you would say, or means the factor which the aspirant should keep in mind before preparing for this exam?
Ma'am, as I said, since I'm working, it's very, tough to get time for preparation. Since I have very limited time, I feel it's very important to find out what not to study. What not to study is important than what to study. So you just have to filter out things. So what should not be focused much or what has to be given more time. So that analyzation is very much important before we start any preparation. So that was one change which I adopted this time. And apart from that, notes making is very important because in my previous attempts I was not that serious with respect to notes preparations. I used to refer multiple notes. So this time I had my own notes where I was very much organized with respect to notes.
True, true. Okay. So that was the two major things. First off, to limit your topics, or you can say categories, for the syllabus. And second was to make notes that would help you for that quick revision if you want to do at the end. All right. So we'll go much deeper into the content that you prepared for, but phase-wise manner. So to the aspirants who are watching it for the very first time, so in NABARD, you have three phases. We have phase one, phase two, and then we have interview. In phase one, there are 8 subjects that are there. We are going to discuss one by one with sir also. And in phase, which is all objective. Then you have phase two, where we have combination of MCQs, that is objective and descriptive typing. And then at the end, we have interview. Starting off, sir, with phase one, there are 8 subjects, which is divided further into 2 sections. One being the non merit section constitute of quant, reasoning, English, decision making, and computer knowledge. Here, the aspirant just have to clear the sectional cutoff. Okay. And then we have merit section. We have general awareness ESI, which is economic and social issues and agriculture and rural development, where there is sectional cutoff that needs to be cleared. And then there is an overall cutoff from these three subjects that needs to be clear if somebody wants to enter phase 2. All right. So starting off with a non-merit section. So quant, reasoning, English, I assume because you're from banking background, so you need not to prepare much for it. But if you want to give a
Yeah.
comparison, would you say that NABARD's quant reasoning is somewhat similar to what is that is asked in IBPS examination, or there is a slight difference?
I think it's slightly you can compare it with the clerical IBPS clerical exams. I mean, it's of that range. It's not that complicated, and I'm sure who is gonna prepare for NABARD will be having that basic knowledge. So that is kind of enough.
All right. And for
That is kind of sufficient.
Yes, sir.
That is kind of sufficient to clear the cutoffs, sectional cutoffs. But with respect to computer awareness and decision making, I think we have to do some work with that.
Right. So, sir, how did you prepare for these two topics?
Decision making, I referred for a PDF from a PDF of Bankers Adda. It was very much useful because few questions were directly taken from that PDF. And with respect to computer awareness, I referred EduTap's PDF. That was sufficient. That is quite sufficient to clear the questions of NABARD.
Right, for the sectional cutoff of computer knowledge. All right. And
Yeah.
for the merit section, then you have general awareness, ESI and ARD, right? So, and there's a
Yeah.
lot to cramp up. There's a lot of data that is asked in NABARD, and you being a working aspirant, it must have been very difficult. So, how did you
Yeah.
prioritize that? Okay, these are the points that I have to keep in mind or I have to remember, and these are the things that, that's fine if I skip this part. So, how was your plan for that?
For with respect to current affairs, I think PAB is very important. It's like a holy book for NABARD because whatever the current affairs with respect to objective and with subjective also, it gets directly picked up from PAB. So what I used to do is I used to refer PAB directly from the website. Whenever I prepare for the PAB, I used to keep two notes. One is for objective and another one is for subjective. So with respect to ministries also, I had filtered few ministries that are related to NABARD exam syllabus only. So whatever the important points I used to feel like, okay, this is important for subjective, I used to note it down in my subjective notes.
Okay.
And apart from PAB website, after referring the PAB website and making your own notes, I think you have to supplement it with the EduTap PAB compilations also. Because if you have missed anything which is important from other ministries, you can get it from EduTap PDFs. So combining both will be of much use.
Right. So you had made one specific source for yourself, which was PIB, and then you supplemented with some other source. And in your case, it was EduTap's material, so that if something is left out in your first main source, it might get supplemented in second, right? And it's very important key take away for the aspirants also that you need not to run behind, multiple sources because there's a lot to cover, right? You need not to get 100 on 100 in examination. It's about clearing the examination, ending up it in the final merit list. So if you have limited sources, you would have more time for revision, and that is definitely going to help you and provide you with the results. All right. Okay, sir. So did you, sir, even follow the mock test or a marathon session, something like that for phase 1, or your limited time did not allow you to do so?
Actually, I didn't take any marks for the prelims specifically. I had taken marks for the mains, but for prelims, I didn't take any marks. But with respect to YouTube videos, or I mean the marathon sessions of objective questions, that was very useful because since I had limited time, I used to go through the videos whenever I was traveling or whenever I feel very tired. I just used to sit and watch the videos. So revising those videos repeatedly is very useful because you get to memorize those points when you see the videos.
Right. That's true. Okay, so here you said one point, like, whenever you are tired, you used to watch the videos. So banking is already a very hectic job. So how did you manage your time? Like, didn't you used to feel fatigued, or maybe at moments, when there's already a lot of work at office, you're coming home, you're trying to remember the data, you're not. Didn't you have ever that point feel like quitting about the job, about this preparation?
Yeah, there are multiple incidents where I felt like, okay, this is not for me. I mean, I'm not able to do along with the work and all. But ultimately, I used to think about, okay, why did I start this?
Yeah.
I definitely want this to be. I mean, I have to clear it at any cost. So what I used to do is evening hours. It's highly impossible for me to sit and it because I used to be tired, and even if I read also that wouldn't be much effective. So what I used to do is I used to reserve the morning hours like around 4:30 to 8:30. So those 4 hours were like golden hours for me because nobody can disturb me at that time. Even the office people or my family or friends, nobody can disturb me at that time. So that 4 hours was very constant throughout the preparation.
True. And later on, but still, I think you must have faced that fatigueness. But this is that's, and that's what
Yeah.
very important, to have that non-quitting attitude. Had you quit in between, this is not the interview that we were going to have if you have thought of quitting it in somewhere. Right? Okay. So when you give phase
Yeah.
one, so were you confident about it, like, and then you started preparing for phase two, or first you waited for the results and then you started preparation?
Actually, I had doubts with respect to computer awareness sectional cutoff because since I'm not from the computer background or something like that, I had doubts, but I had to start prepare immediately after the prelims because I was not in a situation to take risk. Because it's always fine to start soon after the exam. You don't have to wait for the results.
True, true. That's true. Okay. So now for phase two, what was the strategy? Because here, like, phase two, you have faced initially twice also. This was the third
Yeah,
time you were giving. And this is where you were always, after this, you were not able to clear, right? So about this
yeah.
now, what was the thing that you changed this time, or what were the key factors that you kept in mind? Like, okay, no, this is a mistake I've been committing for last two time, and this is not something I'm going to do this year.
Yeah. In my previous attempts, it was usually like I used to focus either only on the content or only on my typing speed. But this time I felt like, okay, both are equally important. I mean, I can't invest more time in one specific thing only. From my previous attempts, I was quite confident about my typing speed. So this time I didn't focus much on typing speed. I was more focused on the content aspect of the exam. So my typing was fine, and with respect to contents, I used to prepare only with the topics that are currently in news, especially for the descriptive paper. There are few topics which are repeatedly in news, so I focused on those topics.
So for that, like, did you made any fodder material, or you just had some pointers that, okay, what will come? I'll just add these points somehow in between.
I mean, with respect to English paper, I had some fodder points because apart from the topic wise preparation, I had prepared sector wise also because we can't predict the topics. I mean, whatever the topics that are gonna come. So when we prepare sector wise, for example, agriculture or it might be education. When I'm preparing for education sector, I used to sit for 2 3 days only for the education sector because after that whatever the questions they ask in education sector I would be able to add at least 4 5 points even though I don't know the complete answer.
True. Hmm.
So that sectoral wise preparation is very much helpful. And with respect to descriptive paper 2, I used to point out everything, not just a fodder notes. I used to write it down point wise the entire topic. For example, if it's agriculture marketing, I used to write down everything starting from the features or the advantages, disadvantages, problems, everything. So I used to arrange it in a proper manner.
Right. So for ESI ARD also, like, you focused on what is the news in PIB and then making content out of it.
Yeah. Because as I said, depending on PAB on the main website is very much useful because you'll get to know what are the topics that are in use. Because in ESI, we can't expect much static questions. There are very less static questions in ESI. Only thing you get is from current affairs.
Yeah.
So you when you prepare through PAB, you'll be getting to know what are the topics that are repeatedly appearing in news.
True.
So when you get to know that, you'll be able to prepare in the subjective aspect also.
Right. And for, like, for the static content, So did you had any preparation for that, or your focus was more on the current affairs portion, as the current affair it is asked more in case of ESI?
In case of ESI static, in my previous attempts, I had focused a bit on static portion, like maybe inflation, poverty, and unemployment, such kind of topics. But in this attempt, I didn't refer for any static portions because I was fine with the basic knowledge with respect to those topics. So I didn't even touch any topics related to static portion of ESI.
Right. And for ARD?
For ARD, there are few things that has to be studied, like a few subjects like agronomy, soil science, and a few topics of animal husbandry. In ARD, we have to prepare for static also, and for that, I had referred EduTap notes also. That is very useful. And other thing is NABARD Sundar notes. I mean, the
True.
book of NABARD Sundar. That is also very helpful.
Okay, so again, your what one key takeaway which I can get for the aspirant is in your preparation, you always focused on one source and then you supplement it with some other for the additional knowledge
Yeah.
that you can have. And if something is getting skipped in the main source, that can be supplemented from the next source. All right, okay. And for like if you have to suggest, like for example, like schemes are very important. Like so, there are some categories which you would say or which you have prioritized, as you are saying that this year you learned what to memorize and what not to memorize, right?
Yeah.
So are there any categories that you can suggest aspirants that these are the things that that you have to do, and this is like non-negotiable?
With respect to that, as I said, PAB, you can't skip a single day also. You have to sit and study PAB on a daily basis. You have to spend at least half an hour for PAB every day. And
True.
apart from PAB, there is schemes.
Yeah.
Schemes is like you can't leave any of the schemes that is related to agriculture and rural development, and also with respect to finance also that is related to, I mean, agriculture. So schemes, what you have to do is, I mean, what I did was I used to prepare one scheme per day,
Okay.
and I used to refer the government PDFs also directly. And after that, I used to make a note, my own notes of schemes. But for revision, I used to make use of the flowcharts that was provided in EduTap PDFs, because that flowcharts is very useful when you're doing revision, because you can't go through the entire notes when you're doing your last time preparation. When you have the flow charts, it is easy to revise because you will mention the ministries separately, features separately. So that is very useful for the aspirants. And apart from schemes, you have to prepare for economic survey and budget and any recent reports, not the old reports, like not agriculture census or the not the census reports of. I mean, it's very outdated as of now.
Yeah.
So if there is any reports that is freshly released, that you have to focus on.
True, true. All right. And like if I want to know your take on reaching the word limit. Right. What do you think that, aspirant, if it's like 400 words, they have to touch this 400 words, or like minus 50 or 100 would also suffice if they have given a wholesome answer?
Yeah, I mean, if your content is good, I think minus 50 to 70 words is always fine, because and but the answer should not be incomplete. I mean, if you're typing it minus 50 words also, your answer should be complete. It should not be like incomplete sentence or the incomplete paragraphs.
True.
If the
Right,
answer
right.
is complete, I mean, even minus 50 words is also fine.
Right. Okay. And if like you have been given this examination for many years, so and this year you focus more on current affair and the sort of news that is coming in PIB. So
Yeah.
what would you say is the trend of NABARD? It is shifting from static portion to more to the current affairs, or you feel like it has always been like this, and it is how the NABARD examination is that one has to focus like 80% on current affairs and 20%, and specifically if we talk about ARD section, like they have to focus on the static, and it has always been like this. Like what your experience is about it?
I mean, after the pattern was changed to subjective, I think it's always been the same.
Okay.
With respect to ESI, it's always the current affairs, and with respect to ARD, it's both static and the current affairs. The only change which I observed is with respect to descriptive second paper, it is being changing from more kind of a technical to more kind of the topics that are in news.
All right. Yeah, instead of going for the syllabus, like the technicalities, the questions can be
Yeah,
asked out of the syllabus. It's more about like what's in news and what's the, probabilities of the developments and things like that that are now being
yeah,
asked in examination.
yeah,
All right. Okay. So this time, like you had prepared a lot for phase two. So
yeah.
then, were you and like you have given mains before, so definitely you must be a little bit of scared or skeptical and eagerly waiting for the result, or were you confident this time that no, okay, this time I am going to clear?
I mean, I was not sure about the mains because I had not reached my word limit with respect to what you say letter writing. I had like around 60 to 70 words were less. And also with respect to descriptive second paper, also it was like I didn't reach word limit in one of the 15 marks question.
Right.
So I was not sure about that. I was very doubtful about that.
Yeah. And then finally you saw your name on the list. Now next stage was to prepare for the interview. And
Yeah.
so definitely you would be more charged up because this is not the opportunity you would want to miss. So then after for the interview, like what was the your strategy? What was your next plan? Starting off, let's talk about the sources. Like what were the sources did you refer?
I referred NABARD website first thing because there we get to know everything like starting from the organization establishment and the initiatives, everything we'll get to know through the website. And the second thing was NABARD annual report because NABARD annual report I think you shouldn't skip for interview. Even though the panel was changed and even though the questions were different, but if you have to understand NABARD, I think you have to go through the annual report.
True.
And apart
Right.
from that, since I was working, I think I referred some things related to banking and the relationship between the NABARD and my organization where I'm working. So such kind of things you will have to when you're working.
Right. And did you attempt any mock interviews also? Like have you given any?
Yeah. I had taken mock interviews of EduTap and also other platforms which were freely available.
Right. Okay. And do you think that the mock interviews, they help you with the main interview, or is it like, main interview is just like altogether other experience and it cannot be compared with any mock interviews?
No, actually, mock interview helps a lot because in NABARD, the interview is through online. I mean, it's not offline interview. So when you take mocks, you'll get introduced to the interface of interview because you'll all of a sudden you can't get adopted to the interview when it is a real interview.
Yeah.
So the interface is very helpful, and the other thing is the kind of questions because when you're taking mock interview, you'll be giving the information about your education or if you're working everything. So the questions they ask in mock interview can be repeated in the real interview also, which had happened for me also. I had like one or two questions repeated in my in the real interview which were asked in EduTap interview.
All
So
right.
mock interview is very much helpful.
Right. Okay. So this time you went for the interview also. So are there any do's and don'ts like you would say? Because this time you have been all ready about it. So are there, do you think,
Yeah.
that these are the do's, this is how you should dress up, this is how you should not dress up, like something that you would say you could recommend to the aspirants?
Yeah, with respect to dress code, I think you should be formal. That you can't skip. You should be formal, but formal in the sense you should be comfortable with what you're wearing.
Yeah.
Because there is one misconception that you should always wear a suit for going into interview. I don't think that's mandatory because if it's a trouser shirt and a tie, it's well and good. Only thing is you should be comfortable because when you're answering or when you're going through your interview, you should not feel uncomfortable with your dress.
Right. So did you went only wearing shirt and tie?
Yeah.
So, but then you must, I think because usually students they follow this, right? They follow all the dress code. So when you saw, but first please confirm, like if other were also in the shirt
Yeah,
only,
actually,
or they were having the coat.
I was the only one person who was not wearing coat.
So didn't you have that? Didn't you felt depressed at that time, or maybe disheartened that oh, I am like this? Maybe it's going to have any negative impact or anything like that?
I initially felt that, but later on, I felt like, anyways, I'm in the formals. It's not like I'm wearing
Yeah.
something informal. I was in the formals, and I was confident about my answering capacity. So I don't think that will be, I mean, disturbing. Aspect.
Right. And if we talk about your main interview, like how did it go? What sort of questions are asked to you? Like, for example, you studied about NABARD, your background, and every possible thing that you could. But how you actually in the exam, in the real interview, what were the questions that were asked to you?
Yeah, one thing which I observed when we compare the other exam interviews to NABARD interviews are the panel members will be very jovial. I mean, they make you very comfortable and they make you feel comfortable to answer. And with respect to questions, to my surprise, I didn't get a single question that is related to NABARD or that is related to my graduation and not even related to my work experience also.
Oh, so what sort of questions were asked to you?
It was more like a discussion rather than an interview because the questions that were asked for me were kind of discursive type. For example, one of the panel member asked me like, "Your father is a farmer, so how are you contributing to your father, or how are you helping to your father?" And there was another question like. When you give loans to your customers, you'll be satisfied by seeing their smile, but still, why do you want to change your job?
Hmm.
And there was only one question that was quite technical that was related to climate change. I mean, that was also like, what are the changes that you want to adopt in agriculture due to climate change nowadays? So
Hmm.
it was more like a discussion, and I think I led my interview the way I wanted to because I used to say a few words which I expected the interviewers might ask me in return. Whenever I mentioned few words like maybe FPO, the next two three questions were related to FPO, and whenever I mentioned PAX, the next two three questions were related to PAX.
Right. So it's really a good key takeaway for the aspirant. They can always channelize the interview. Just
Yeah,
whatever you are saying, no, from your words only, there is going to be the counter question. So be mindful with what you are saying. And if you feel like you're confident about a topic, you can add that. Definitely not unnecessarily that it seems out of the box. But whatever you are replying, you can do on that basis. Okay. So, okay, and this is also one something different which I have observed while taking interviews is that you have been asked situation-based questions. So,
yeah.
an aspirant should be prepared for that as well to have that analytical point of view, to have that situation reaction. They should be well prepared with that as well.
Yeah, in interview, I think you have to be prepared for everything because there were others also which who had the interview on the same day, and they had got a very technical kind of question. I mean, the few of the questions were very deep with respect to their graduation and all. So you can't expect everyone will get the situation based questions or everyone will
Yeah.
get the technical kind of questions. It's just that you have to be prepared for everything.
Right. Okay. So after that, the next thing you had to do was to wait for the results.
Yeah,
So,
that's
so how was that like, time period? Because so means was it like you were confident and you were like, okay, dekha jayega, or you were more like, becoming self-critical that I could have done this better, that better, or anything like that?
that feel was there because as soon as I came out of the interview room, I felt like okay, I could have answered few of them with the better examples or
Hmm.
few of them with better explanation. But at that moment, it was fine. I mean, I felt like okay, I was satisfied with the answers.
All right. Right. And then finally the result came. So where were you at? And then like what
Yeah,
was the next thing?
I was in the office and it was like around 5:30, I guess. I was working and I actually shouted in the office because I was not even aware that the people are around me because I was very excited to see the result. It was my fourth attempt and probably it was my last attempt also because of few other factors.
Okay.
So I was very excited to see the results.
Right. And your family must have also been very excited.
Yeah, they were very happy.
Right. All right. Okay. And finally, your this grinding of, giving examination year after year, even after having a job is finally over. And
Yeah.
we wish you really best for your future. You do better in life. That's what we all want. So thank you for joining with us and sharing your views. At the end, I would like you to say something to the aspirants who are preparing for this examination, who have already faced a lot of failures, but they are still hopeful that maybe someday they also will make it.
Yeah, I mean, with respect to repeaters, I mean, who are taking the attempt repeatedly, one thing which which I like to share is your repetitions is good for your experience, because everyone can't clear an exam in first attempt. So your 2 3 attempts is a very good practice and experience for your third attempt,
True.
so that you'll definitely clear in your third or fourth attempt. So never quit preparation. It is possible for everyone.
True. That's true.
And the
Okay.
only thing,
Yeah.
I mean, the last thing which I want to say is, as I said in the beginning, you have to know what not to study along with what to study.
True, that's true. It's a huge ocean of knowledge.
Yeah,
You have your life to read about it, but but for the examination, you have to limit your approach. All right.
yeah.
Thank you, sir. Definitely, this
Thank you,
word
ma'am.
of advice and your experience is going to help a lot of aspirants. Thank you again, and we wish you all the very best for your future.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.